Welcome, everyone, to the U.S. Mayoral Roundtable titled Rebuilding the Future of Chicago. I'm so excited for this session. I can't tell you. I'm Michael Hancock, Mayor of the City and County of Denver. I am proud to be your host today as we bring to you the 57th Mayor of the great city of Chicago. We're going to get to him in just a moment. I can't tell you how excited I am for this session. I've been looking forward to it for quite some time now. But let's get a few housekeeping items out of the way. First, we want to say thanks to a few folks. We're going to start with, of course, the incomparable George Burciaga of the U.S. Mayoral Roundtable for the work that he does in government, technology, and supporting mayors across the country, city of Denver, and Mayor Hancock being one of them. And we hope to bring Mayor Johnson into this in just a few days and make sure that he knows he's got a great backdrop to support. We also want to thank all of you, part of the Smart City Expo World Congress. We want to thank you for your incredible support. We look forward to visiting Barcelona in November. Who would not look forward to visiting Barcelona at any time?
I'll go now.
You're right, like right now, right? We look forward to being part of the Smart City Expo World Congress event out there. We're going to have a good time. And of course, we're going to bring mayors from around the United States to come and bring some good discussion about technology, about government, and really about the life of mayors and how we try to infuse technology in our cities. And so we look forward to seeing you, and we want to thank you all for your leadership out there and what you're doing. This session will be viewed by thousands of virtual attendees with the support of the Tomorrow City online platform. And now I want to bring in our friend, my brother from another mother, George Burciaga, all the way from well, we only talk about where he is right now. But Brother George, come on in. U.S. Mayoral Roundtable. Say a few words.
Well, absolutely, Mayor Hancock. As usual, I have to say thank you for not only being a champion and shining the light on mayors across the world, but really inspiring the content, the vision, the focus of what cities are talking about, whether it's at the U.S. Mayoral Roundtable or it's the African American Mayors Association or it's the U.S. Conference of Mayors in general. I mean, there's so much you do that has really changed the direction of where we're going. And today was obviously an important day for me to have Mayor Johnson, the mayor of my city, there. I am out of the country in Europe meeting mayors all over the world. But today in Sicily, it's been incredible. I'm in the incredible city of Taormina, at the NH Collection Hotel, which has been a really great partner in the work we've been doing across Europe. So I just want to say thank you to them. Smart City Expo World Congress has been incredible at focusing and shining a light on our U.S. mayors and taking them into global places. Also, Tomorrow Cities has been the platform that brings 20, 30,000 people to view what we're talking about, not only in the U.S., but how we share these ideas to change the way we are going to move the world forward. I'd like to say thank you to all of our mayors who've been supporting us as a group, as a collective, to really change and transform the way we move technology into our most underserved communities. It's important to me. It is the base of our vision. And I'm just really, really excited for today's conversation. And of course, Mayor Hancock, always for having you guiding us. Thank you. Thank you for getting this started.
Well, thank you, my man, and safe travels to you and your family. And we all should send a congratulations to you and your young, beautiful daughter, Sophie, for her graduation from high school. And where is she going on to college?
She's going to UC Berkeley.
Berkeley.
She's a California. I still cry every morning because I haven't accepted it, but it is a fact. And I was just telling Mayor Johnson that for me, a kid out of Pilsen, to be able to do what we do today together with mayors across the world, mayors across the country, to see my daughter going to UC Berkeley is a blessing. And it is exactly, if I died tomorrow, I did what I was supposed to do. And I'm just grateful to be here today.
I love it. Well, you better accept it, brother, because it's happening. And you can tell.
I know.
Tell Sophie that UC Berkeley is Bronco country. We just want to. Let's bring in our new brother mayor, Brandon Johnson, into this conversation. Again, we are focused on rebuilding our future Chicago. And I can't tell you again how excited I am to have the honorable Mayor of Chicago, Brandon Johnson, newly minted mayor, the 57th mayor of Chicago, the third largest city in the United States of America. We want to congratulate you on a well-deserved victory on becoming Chicago's new mayor. Your tireless efforts as an organizer, your strategic focus throughout the campaign truly sets you apart, and we're proud and excited to have you here. Mayor Johnson, why don't you come on and tell us a little bit about yourself before we jump into questions?
Hey, well, thank you, Mayor Hancock. Thank you for that introduction, and thank you to my brother George for all the work that you do. And I am, truly humbled, and quite frankly, I'm very much honored to serve in this capacity and to be amongst a company of leaders all over the country, all over the globe, that recognize how important local politics and governance is. And one particular article that I did read about myself. I don't read very much about myself. I don't think that's healthy. But there was one particular article that described me as the most unlikeliest individual to ever become the mayor of the city of Chicago. And as much as that headline it's somewhat provocative, when I think about not just my upbringing, but the upbringings of people across this country, and particularly in Chicago and throughout the Chicagoland area. Growing up in a working class family with 9 siblings. My parents were also foster parents. We had 3 bedrooms, Mayor Hancock, and one bathroom. And I certainly learned early in life the art of negotiations. When you only have one bathroom in the home, you learn quickly to ally yourself with the sisters. And I've done that my entire life. But growing up in a working class family, my situation was not that unique from most individuals who were raised in the 80s. As many people will know, that the 80s were a very difficult time for working people, manufacturing jobs, and as well as the industry that quite frankly made working class and middle class families available to this economy just were crushed under the 80s and the policies that really began to move towards the outsourcing of jobs. And it wasn't easy. I know what it's like to grow up in a home when the ends don't meet. And I remember growing up and the long orange extension cord from our neighbor's window through in our window, just to make sure that we had electricity, or you would come home and the water wasn't on. And but I'm fortunate, by God's grace, my father, who eventually became a public employee, but he was a pastor, he was a carpenter, he had a tremendous hustle in him. But as you can imagine, when you grow up in a home where your father is a pastor and a carpenter, it's a lot of pressure when your dad is just like Jesus. But he raised us, and my mother, and they raised us with the fundamental values of we are only as strong as the person who is struggling the most. And growing up in that home, with my being tethered to our faith and the push for true liberation is really what guided my principles and values today. Eventually went on to become a teacher here in Chicago, teaching middle school. Then I became an organizer, a union organizer in particular, just carrying on that deep tradition that the city of Chicago is known for. And as a result of teaching in Chicago and some of the most difficult circumstances and organizing in Chicago, it led me into the political space that I'm occupying now. Served as a Cook County commissioner, that movement that propelled an organizer to serve one of the largest counties in the entire country. That same movement propelled this most unlikeliest individual to become the 57th mayor of the city of Chicago.
Well, I love it. We have a lot of similarities. I was not aware of your story of being one of 10. I'm one of 10. Similar story, but a mother instead of your father is my mother, who I watched labor and work hard and teach me the values of tenacity and resilience and the power of love, really. And, you mentioned Chicago, elected as the most unlikely person. It's interesting that the history of Chicago mayors, and Mayor Byrne and Mayor Harold Washington and your predecessor and Mayor Lightfoot, and of course you. It sounds like it's quintessential Chicago, looking for that person who just fits the vision and the time. So talk a little bit about your first 75 days in office so far. How does it feel? I remember those days when I was first elected. It's like drinking from a fire hydrant. How have you felt?
Yeah, well, I believe it's only been 40 days or 43 days. So In 75 days, I'll come back and holler at you. Maybe my response will be a little different.
Yeah.
But what I can say is that there's a great deal of energy in the city of Chicago right now. Look, it's not a secret, that there are some real clear dividing lines politically, not just in the city of Chicago, but around the country. I ran on the values that I was raised by, and making sure that we're investing in people. And as you've articulated, Mayor Hancock, that the best way you can demonstrate our commitment to people is by investing in them. And you do that when you actually care and love for people and have love for people. And, over the course of these first 40 days or 43 days or so, even individuals who did not necessarily support me or rally around my vision, they recognize that the city of Chicago is best positioned to truly live up to its promise of being a world-class city. And so we have corporations, the philanthropic community, we have labor, the faith community. All of these institutions are coming together to solve the critical challenges that we are facing right now. Look, I inherited quite a dynamic here, and I'm sure we'll get into those dynamics. But the first, month and a half has been a real joy for my wife and I. My wife and I will be celebrating, in fact, 25 years of marriage and really soon. And she is the real historical figure because she's the first Black woman to serve as the first lady in the history of the city of Chicago. And the people have surrounded us, given us a great deal of support, and they've made it very clear. Everyone is asking the same question: what can I do to help? And that is really what has marked the first month and a half of my tenure. And I'm grateful that the people of Chicago recognize that this moment is critical, and it's going to take all of us to unite this city and to transform it.
We're going to come back to your point to some of those issues, because I'm not sure in 2023 if, the opportunity to run for the first time to be a mayor was available to me, I would do it because of the challenges that are facing every major city around the country. We'll talk about those in just a moment. But during your inauguration, you mentioned the commitment to bringing back the spirit of Chicago. What does that mean? And talk to us a little bit about that.
And real quick, Mayor. Mayor Johnson, if I could say something, I was sitting in that audience, and when I heard you say that, it resonated. And I said, man, I remember, and I know what he's talking about, because I can feel it when through that conversation, the connection of where it used to be or where it could be, and the way you delivered it was so powerful. It just stuck with me. So I'd love for you to share with the world on what that means.
Yeah. So thank you for that question, Mayor Hancock. And George, you're absolutely right. The room was just a very captivating space where you can feel the shift in the atmosphere of people recognizing that this is not just a critical moment for the city of Chicago and our nation, but it's something that we can actually deliver, for people. And when I say deliver, the soul of Chicago really captures the essence of who we are as a city. And the fact that our city finds its historic roots connected to John Point Baptiste de Sabo and Kitty Hawa, who saw this as not just a resting place, but a place to build opportunity for generations now. And whether it's DuSable or Chairman Fred Hampton, who really saw liberation through the eyes of those who have struggled the most in this city, that he saw liberation in the form of making sure that children ate before they went to school. Chairman Fred was very conscientious of the fact that we needed access to healthcare. But we're also, clear that there were families like mine who came during the second migration, who saw the city of Chicago as a place for hope and opportunity. But it's also been a place for immigrants all over the globe who see Chicago as, a sanctuary. And this is the city, of course, that birthed the incredible hashtag, though it wasn't a hashtag at the time, but Keep Hope Alive. Reverend Jesse Jackson, who in 84 and 88 changed the game electorally, that led to President Obama receiving the amount of votes that he needed to in order to secure the nomination. And so I can go on, but really the soul of Chicago is really about reviving the true essence of who we are as a city. And it's a city that Black folks have found refuge. Brown folks have found refuge. Families from European nations have found refuge here. So the multicultural, intergenerational movement that elected me, that is really the essence of who we are as a city. And capturing the soul of Chicago is really about making sure that we are delivering services, the full force of government and industry on behalf of the people who see Chicago as the very place where deep roots have been fortified, but those who also want to plant roots so that the next 100 years from now, we are speaking the same language of how we, of course, are continuing to deliver, again, the full force of government that really reflects our values.
You're so inspiring. It's no wonder you were elected 57th mayor of Chicago. I'm sitting here listening to you, and I want to move to Chicago. I mean, and if you got it well entrenched in long-term residents, natives who are listening to this, it is inspiring. I've got so many questions run through my mind. Let me do a speed question, a couple of speed questions for you. One is, have you thought about, you mentioned Jesse to Obama. Is there a mayor or an elected official or someone you look to and pattering your leadership after?
Yeah, that's a very good question. So I'm of the mindset that you can garner a little bit of everything from everyone.
Mm-hmm.
Certainly.
Spoken like a true member of the 10th family. Go ahead.
Well, that's the thing, and I'm also a middle child. So I also have, the healthy dynamic of being able to be responsible for individuals who are younger than I am, but also be accountable to individuals who are older.
Right.
And so, but, of course, as I mentioned, Reverend Jesse Jackson and his understanding of the larger political space of bringing people together, I certainly have modeled, my presentation through the lens of organizing and bringing people together. Certainly President Obama and his ability to ignite energy amongst young people and his ability to speak directly to young people and their hopes and dreams is something that I certainly admire. One of the things that I believe it's important to note is that I won by 26,532 votes or something like that. 27,000 new people voted in April that did not vote in February, all of whom were under the age of 34. I'm literally here because of the energy of the youth vote. But certainly, Mayor Harold Washington is someone that I believe the entire globe has studied. His ability to connect with everyday people is something that's just is quintessential to, I believe, the office of the mayor, because people have to know that you are not just related, but that you are touchable, right? That you are that you can connect to the office of the mayor. And then I would say, finally, I don't, often, talk about this dynamic, but there are a number of elected officials here in the city of Chicago that were former Chicago public school teachers. And so President Preckwinkle was a social studies teacher. Congressman Danny Davis was also a public school teacher. Former Alderman Ed Smith was a public school teacher. The former board president, Bobby Steele, was a public school teacher. Secretary of State Jesse White, a public school teacher. So there's a long history of CTU members, folks who come out of the labor movement, moving into the political leadership. And so I've tried my best to capture a little bit of every of all of those individuals.
How you're going to find out that you are truly the accessible, approachable mayor is when you're going through the town and someone yells out, "Brandon." And
Exactly.
I know my age used to be like, don't let them call you Mike. I'm like, you don't understand. That's the highest compliment from your hood that you can get, is when they know you by your name, that they knew you as when you were a little boy with ashy knees running through the hood. So I mean, just wait for that moment. You're going to say, that's the best sound I've heard in months, Mayor Johnson. So let's go into this question. So we've got in our nation today, and Chicago certainly is not immune to this, rising crime, well-documented gun violence in Chicago, economic uncertainty, racial division, migrants. We work very closely between Denver, Chicago, New York, DC, and so forth about the issue. Downtown is struggling to come back. You're still within your 100-day framework. Talk about your plan for Chicago.
Yeah, and thank you for that. As you mentioned, and for the frame of that question, that the entire country is still reeling from, in many instances, just decades of disinvestment, but certainly
Absolutely.
the impact of COVID, certainly exacerbated what, many of us have always known about spaces, where Black, brown, working class families reside. As far as, the overall vision for the city of Chicago, what I've said repeatedly, the safest cities in America all have one thing in common, that there is an absolute commitment to investing in people. And those investments have to be intentional, and they have to be wide. And here's what I mean by that. There is an artist that I follow quite a bit. His name is Gregory Porter. And so I want to give him credit for this axiom that I use. I talk often about rerouting the river so that where there is dryness and thirst, that the people who are thirsty and where dry places have been the norm, that the river is rerouted to make sure that it reaches those spaces. And what we have found is that the debilitating dynamics of poverty and isolation have left so many of our communities in economic despair. Schools have been closed. The lack of transportation, affordability is certainly a challenge here in the city of Chicago and around the country. And so I've made this very clear that I'm going to, one, make sure that we have a budget that reflects our values, and of which we have to have a balanced approach. We have to make sure that we're not continuously forcing working class people to foot the bill of our economy without receiving any benefit from it. And so that's why I made a strong commitment to not relying upon property taxes and creating up to $1 billion of new investments over the course of my first term. And those new investments will go into mental health services. They're going to go into making sure that we have social workers and nurses in all of our schools. But we also are committed to generating revenue that can help us confront the homeless crisis that we have in Chicago. 65,000 families are unhoused, of which 20,000 of them are children. And so there are organizing efforts to create a revenue stream that provides public housing, affordable housing, and a pathway to home ownership. And then finally, our procurement process here in Chicago has left many of our developments. It's caused those developments to be stagnant. And so when we talk about the vacancy downtown Chicago, but throughout the neighborhoods, in many instances, because we're not creating real opportunities and pathways for individuals to receive permits and access to contracts so that they can, one, deliver services for the people of Chicago, but two, they can also hire people who are part of the community. And then, of course, three, it helps us generate revenue so that we can continue to deliver those services that families desperately need. And so I know that's a short, quick, hurried version of our plan, but that's really the essence of it. And if we do that, I'm confident that the crises that we are experiencing in the city of Chicago and around the country, where violence is constant, that I'm confident that with those investments and that clear strategy, that it will reduce these proclivities for individuals to fall into the trap of trauma, and that manifesting, of course, through violent acts. That's what I'm confident that we can deliver in Chicago.
Yeah, that's phenomenal. And I think that what you just got to is the heart of what most American cities miss. That if you think that the violence in America, particularly young Black and brown children carrying weapons, is just about the availability and accessibility to weapons, we are absolutely missing the point. Everything you talked about, the economic isolation, the perennial presence of diminishing hope, and economic challenges and, literacy rates and lack of access to quality school, all these things compound to create really what we're dealing with today. And that is a sense of desperation and a sense of lack of hope. And I always say to people, nothing's more dangerous than a person who feels like they have no hope or no future. And we've got to your point. I love that phrase. What was the name of the artist? Rerouting the River?
Yeah, so check out Gregory Porter. It's in fact, the name of the song is called Liquid Spirit, right? So that's again where we get the soul of Chicago from our arts and our culture. And I believe that's also related, creating those type of opportunities where young people in particular, Mayor Hancock, can find their purpose. It's not just about securing a job. This is about young people in particular being fulfilled. And the more we can create opportunities for young people and just families in general to experience fulfillment, I'm confident that we're going to see, a dramatic shift in how our neighborhoods are characterized and how our neighborhoods function.
I'm sure that my dear sister down there, Karen Freeman Wilson of the Chicago Urban League, will be a valuable partner with you, because this sounds so aligned with the mission of the Urban League. And being a former urban leaguer here in Denver, I can tell you that she ought to be just excited to have you in the mayor's office and say, that's my new brother, my new partner to get this done. Let's move on. I have just a few more minutes with you. I want to make sure we get in this question. All these challenges that you have in Chicago, we have in Denver, we have in major cities across this country, and we're moving to address them. How do you envision how technology and innovation will play a role in helping you to address a lot of these what might seem like elusive, challenging, insurmountable issues that you move forward and present them, hopefully, to your constituents in a way that is friendly and accessible in their way?
Yeah, technology is it's the industry that I believe is going to set us up for the next 100 years. For those who are not aware of which subject I taught when I was a public school teacher, I taught social studies. I'm sure that probably won't be a surprise to some, but I don't want to bore people. I know every time I mention social studies, people start to nod off. It is still the greatest subject ever in the world.
Except for us political scientists, yeah.
Exactly, right. But when you think about how industry expanded, through modes of transportation and what that meant for our economy, I believe that technology is set up to do just that. And whether it's biotech, whether it's the life sciences, whether it's manufacturing, and sort of the digital manufacturing that is really sweeping the nation right now in terms of opportunities, here's where I believe technology can create real economic stability within our cities. I've been speaking to a number of technological firms that are prepared to help us reroute the river, right? And bringing those industries not just to our downtown corridors, but making them available within our neighborhoods outside of the downtown neighborhood, but also making sure that these opportunities are available to our young people earlier in their education career. Right now, roughly, there are 55,000 manufacturing positions that are vacant. Most of them are in the city of Chicago. The starting salary is anywhere from $70,000 to $85,000 a year. And the new forms of digital tech that's available for our young people, and that doesn't require a 4-year bachelor's degree. Again, as we talk about biotechnology and the life sciences and green technology to create not just industry and jobs, but a healthier environment. When we talk about violence in the city of Chicago and around the country, when we talk about disinvestment, environmental violence is certainly a dynamic that we have to address as well. I live on the west side of Chicago, the Austin neighborhood. It's the largest concentration of Black voters anywhere in the city. It is actually one of the largest Black neighborhoods in the country. And so it's been disinvested in, but it's also a hot spot. The way environmentalists describe it as one of the most environmentally unfriendly spaces in the entire city of Chicago. And so when we talk about technology, it's about industry, it's about our education system. And then finally, Mayor Hancock, that there's ways in which our government can run more efficiently by just simply upgrading our systems, right? I'm already speaking with a number of firms that can actually help us save dollars so that we can actually reroute the river, of course, and use those savings to go into our education, our mental health, our transportation systems by just using new forms of technology. So it's an incredible opportunity for cities like like my city, Chicago, and other cities to, again, streamline government, make it run more efficiently, but also create job opportunities that can ultimately provide the type of salvation that our communities desperately need.
Mayor Johnson, I got to tell you, I'm just absolutely, and I mean this sincerely, absolutely inspired by you this morning. Chicago, our third largest city, a global hub, is in great hands. And I, again, want to thank you for joining us at the U.S. as part of the U.S. Mayoral Roundtable, and really congratulate you on what is, it seems to be a well-deserved and almost natural and commonsensical selection as Chicago's 57th mayor. I look forward to working with you down the road. Even though I won't officially be in office anymore, I'm certainly hopeful that our paths will cross again. And you're going to do phenomenally well. And again, I'll say to you, we are here for you as you serve. In any capacity, you let us know. But I'm very, very excited for you. Congratulations. And again, thank you for joining us as part of this U.S. Mayoral Roundtable.
Well, thank you, Mayor Hancock and George. Hurry and get back to Chicago. You have way too much fun out there.
Yes,
well, I have to say really quick before we get off is when you started talking about technology, I cut my pen out because I started writing things down. So as Mayor Hancock will tell you, my entire last 24 years have been in tech for government. And the idea that we can actually transform the way we work, live, and learn, it has to happen. And I'm so glad that you said what you said, because I haven't heard that from a mayor in our city in a while. I have to be honest with you. Mayor Hancock knows how I feel about this, and he's allowed us to come in and help him work on ideas. And a number of other mayors, whether it's Mayor Turner, Mayor Suarez, and Mayor Dickens in Atlanta, where we've been able to really transform the way we live by ensuring that if we hear a gunshot, that the light gets brighter, the bus stops moving in that direction. We get an alert, data is collected so we can put police in the right places at the right time. We could actually build efficiencies that change the way our communities actually work. We can teach and learn differently than we've seen in the past. All of that is not in the future. It's actually here now. And the truth is, we just have to be open and willing to see the difference and listen to really create a challenging environment that provoke people to think bigger, because everything's not possible until somebody does it, right? It's like, I can't do it. I hate walking into a city boardroom and all I hear is no, no, no. I'm like, man, will you stop for 1 minute and just listen to what is possible? Because your brain doesn't go this far. I know that we can actually extend much, much further to create change that's necessary. And that happens because so many people feel limited. And the truth is, if the leader of the city says we have to think bigger, it will happen. And I'm so glad that you've said that, because I think there's so much possibility in our city to transform everything that's happening. I'm excited, and I'm gonna reach out to you just to lend a hand to see how we can be helpful.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you again.
And if it's okay, Mayor Johnson, I'll make sure George gives you my personal contact so that we can be in touch and you reach out when and if you ever need me. I'm happy to be of support to you.
Well, that means a lot to my wife and I, and to the entire city of Chicago. Thank you again for this opportunity, and I'm looking forward to the work that we're going to do collectively to not just transform the city of Chicago, but the way we do governance around the country. And we're happy to lead the way right here in the city of Chicago.
Fantastic. Thank you, George Berciaga with the U.S. Roundtable, for your commitment to supporting mayors across the country. Your work provides a clear example of your commitment to cities and families we support, and to the Smart City World Congress. Thank you for your incredible support, and we look forward to visiting your Smart City Expo in November again in Barcelona, Spain. And finally, again, to our brother Mayor Brandon Johnson, for supporting this amazing conversation and for your vision and leadership as the mayor of the beautiful city of Chicago. We look forward to seeing you real soon. We'll get up there to Chicago. We'll make some noise so you know we're in.
No doubt.
All right. Thanks, Mayor Johnson. Thanks, George.
Thank you all.
You all take care. God bless everyone.
God bless you. Thank you.